30 years ago, I was a 34-year-old wife and mother of two small children. Eric was 7 and Melissa was 10 in 1983. I lived in a beautiful home off Holmes Point Drive. I was a Brownie leader and a PTA mom. I had a bookkeeping business I ran from my home so that I could do ballet and soccer with my kids. And I was a second-generation alcoholic. My mother died at age 56 in 1978 from alcoholism just before my 30th birthday. But my world really began to fall apart when I was 10 years old. That's when my mother's disease began to spiral out of control. When I was 14, I saw my mother taken away in a straitjacket to Harborview. I was horrified and I felt so amazingly helpless. I swore I would never drink or be like my mother. So much of my life has been compartmentalized. I mean, it's like I have intimate details of somebody else's life and I can see these different chapters or different stories within stories. When Melissa was 5 years old, would have been 1978. Eric was 2. We moved into a house that we'd spent a year building. And during the construction of our house, I'd gotten a DWI. So I had a lot of information that was starting to bubble up to the surface or get into my consciousness. It took me another 4 years before I really was able to stop drinking.
I remember pockets of things. I remember my mom and dad fighting a lot, really late in the night. And as it turns out, it was my mom coming home after a night of drinking.
My sister and I supported each other. So how did it affect me? Well, I'd sleep on my sister's bed, on the foot of her bed. When they'd fight, we'd curl up in the hallway and cry. My dad, you know, I mean, he did his best to hold the family together and watched this ship sinking.
I went to a psychiatrist who looked at me and talked to me and said, "Oh, I think you're fine." I talked to my doctor and my doctor said, "Oh, I think you're fine." But that was the facade being firmly intact. And I wasn't fine, and I knew that I wasn't fine. The last year I couldn't get up in the mornings.
My mom would wake up around 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. We'd be up at 8. So my sister would cook breakfast and we would do chores together, and she would get me ready for school a lot of the time and, you know, walk me down to the bus stop or get me ready to go down to the bus stop. She still is. She's like a second mom, so.
I basically became my brother's mom. And, but yeah, I mean, becoming a caretaker at a young age.
In looking at Melissa approaching 10 years old, that was the time when all this started for me. And I was getting to a point where I couldn't put my arms around my own child. And I could see my mother. I mean, I could see what I was doing to my family. And I knew that I couldn't continue it. I just couldn't continue doing it. And one night I went out and I got really drunk. And I came home about 2 o'clock in the morning, and George and I had a huge fight, and the kids were there, and it was just awful. And I left the house probably about 5 o'clock in the morning and went and sat in the parking lot of my doctor at Group Health. And my suit was ruined, my stockings were run, my makeup was run, and I didn't look okay. She took one look at me and put me into detox, and 2 days later, miraculously, I was at Residence 12. So she had heard about Residence 12 and got me to the place that saved my life.
I still remember waking up on my 10th birthday. I don't remember what it was that we were going to go do, but, you know, waking up and going, "Where's Mom?"
I remember waking up in the hospital and being transported to Residence 12. I remember walking in the doors. I remember going into the room, which was really nice, and there was actually something safe about that place. Having the ability to start a new life And it really was. It was a start of a new life because there was nothing of Judy when I went into Residence 12. I discovered who I was and then did baby steps over a period of time.
I think Residence 12 gave my mom her life, really, and my life and my children's life. And I think without Residence 12, without that support, just as a women's treatment center, I don't think my mom would be who she is today.
The gift that I got from Residence 12 was my life, and it's been 30 years of sobriety. I've been able to be a good mother. I've been able to be a friend. I've been able to be a colleague. I've been able to be a business person and to give back to my community. And now finally I'm on the board of Residence 12. I've had a good life. I've built this garden, which I absolutely love. I've got animals that I care about. I started to travel. Going to college and traveling were the two dreams that I had when I was a teenager. Today being my 64th birthday, I feel a little bit reflective. I can look back at my mother's life and I miss her. And I'm sorry that she didn't have all the opportunities that I had. That picture wall and going through all the pictures that I did to put that together represents a whole lifetime that I wouldn't have had without Residence 12. I could never have done this without sobriety.
My mom has lived her whole life doing the right thing. Sometimes we slip off the path and we make mistakes. Life isn't about that. Life's about making the mistakes and then making it right. And that's what she's done. And I'm proud of her for that, for 30 years. And it started with Residence 12. You know, without Residence 12, I probably wouldn't have my mother. Who knows where I'd be. So, thank you, Residence 12.